Gyökeres to Arsenal, bargain of the century or the most overrated signing of the window? Barcelona drop a transfer bombshell. Guess which Italian striker Flick wants now? Newcastle go all in with a record bid for Aston Villa's starman. And over at Manchester United, things aren't looking so smooth. Could the Mbeumo deal collapse at the very last second? All that and loads more in today's episode. But before we get into it, as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Ready? Let's jump into the latest transfer rumours. Viktor Gyökeres is finally an Arsenal player, and honestly, this is absolutely massive for the Gunners, who finally loosened the purse strings for a proper number 9. 62 million quid is a serious chunk of change. But after the pain of watching Havertz stumble around and all those half-baked solutions, it was high time to splash out on a real striker. The Swede basically went on strike at Sporting, just didn't bother showing up for pre-season. Can't really blame the bloke, can you? When you're 27 and Arsenal comes waving a 5-year contract in your face, hanging about in Lisbon just isn't that appealing. Especially when Sporting's chairman, Varandas, suddenly got a bad case of amnesia about their £59 million gentleman's agreement and started playing silly beggars. Typical Portuguese football that, shake hands on a deal, then decide to be awkward. Could you imagine the steam coming out of Arteta's ears without a proper number 9? Madueke's almost in, Zubamendi's already signed. They even pinched Kepa from Chelsea on the cheap. But without a lethal centre-forward, all that lovely build-up play is pointless. Gyökeres isn't just some raw talent for the future. This lad bangs in goals for fun, and he does it consistently. The funniest bit about this whole saga, the Swede's agent apparently gave up his commission just to get the deal over the line. Now that's dedication. Usually those agents would sell their grannies for an extra percentage. And here's this incredibly generous gesture. Must have been quite a convincing chat from Gyökeres, eh? Manchester United, by the way, tried to get involved. But when you mess about with middlemen instead of going direct, you get exactly what you deserve. Nothing. Arsenal went in hard and fast, and good on them. The Gunners' attack has been crying out for some fresh firepower, not more messing about with false nines and all that nonsense. Transfermarkt values the Swede at £63 million, so Arsenal actually got a bit of a bargain. Though bargain is a strong word when the lad cost less than £2 million a few years back. From Brighton to Coventry, then Sporting, and now he's at a massive Premier League club. It's a proper late bloomer story. Not everyone has to be a superstar at 18. Now, we just need Sporting and Arsenal to iron out the final details on those bonuses. Those extra £8.5 million will definitely be tied to goals, Champions League qualification and trophies. It's the usual deal. Hit 20 goals in a season, pocket a couple of million, win the Premier League, get another 5. But those are minor details. The main thing is Arsenal have finally bought a proven goalscorer, not just another promising English youngster. After last year's struggles up front, this feels like a massive breath of fresh air. Let's see how the Swede settles into the Premier League, but I've got a feeling he'll be absolutely fine. He's motivated, he's probably well wound up after all the Sporting drama, and he's ready to prove a point. And that's exactly what you need for a flying start at a new club. And you know what? We've got a sort of gentleman's agreement going on here, haven't we? I give you top-notch football content and you show your support by subscribing. But it seems a few of you, much like Sporting's chairman Varandas, have decided to forget about it. Come on now, let's be fair. Hit that subscribe button and we'll consider it a done deal without any more fuss. Barcelona have now turned their attention to Ademola Lookman. Yep, after missing out on Nico Williams, Barça are now seriously exploring the Nigerian international as their next attacking reinforcement. Now, at first glance, you might be thinking, really? Lookman? But hear me out. Barça need a winger. Simple as that. And Lookman doesn't just tick the footballing boxes, he also fits their wider strategy when it comes to marketability and global appeal. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about what he can offer on the pitch, it's also about his off-the-pitch value. He's a potential asset, both in terms of squad depth and commercial reach. Sure, there are bigger names floating around, Luis Diaz, Marcus Rashford, but let's be honest, they come with price tags, agents, and a whole lot of negotiation drama. Lookman, you get high-level quality, versatility, and you don't have to remortgage the Camp Nou to afford him. In fact, Barca have always had a knack for unearthing these kinds of hidden gems, and Lookman could be the next smart pick. Now let's talk football. The 27-year-old has had several standout seasons at Atalanta, consistently putting up impressive numbers. Last season was no different. He kept delivering, and his versatility makes him even more valuable. He's most comfortable out wide, sure, but he can operate across any attacking position, which is exactly what Hansi Flick's system demands. Players who adapt, shift, press, and contribute across the front line. From a financial point of view, this deal makes even more sense. Atalanta are open to talks, and the asking price is reportedly under 50 million euros, despite the fact that Lookman's contract runs until 2027. Negotiations for a new deal with Atalanta have stalled, which gives Barca leverage here. The club's under pressure, no doubt. They need to bring in a proper wide option this window. And when you compare Lookman to other potential targets, he represents a balanced solution: quality, availability, and commercial upside. On top of that, his growing popularity across Africa offers extra value from a branding and global fanbase perspective. Let's not forget, Barcelona aren't just building a squad, they're building their next global chapter. And Lookman could be a clever part of that puzzle. Right now, he looks like one of the most realistic options on Barca's radar. Not a flashy overpay, not a long shot, but a player who could genuinely make an impact, on and off the pitch. Think this could be a smart move for Barca? Drop it in the comments. Ollie Watkins, a name that's suddenly everywhere this transfer window. And yes, Newcastle are now seriously considering him as one of their top targets to lead the line this summer. But let's get straight to the juicy bit, the price tag. If you thought £100 million sounded ridiculous, well, buckle up, because that's exactly what Villa are reportedly asking for the 29-year-old striker. And with Watkins locked into a long-term deal until 2028, you can expect negotiations to be anything but easy. Now, to be fair, the bloke had a monstrous season. 17 goals and 14 assists in 54 appearances. Not too shabby, is it? Numbers like that are bound to draw attention from the big dogs. And they have. Arsenal and United are already hanging about in line, waiting to see how things unfold. So, what's the draw? What makes Watkins so special? First off, this isn't some gamble from a second-tier league. Watkins has proven himself in the Premier League and in Europe. He's battle-tested, and for a club like Newcastle, who are gearing up for Champions League football, that's a big deal. But here's where it gets tricky. £100 million could land you almost any striker, especially a younger one with long-term resale potential. With Watkins turning 30 next year, this isn't a long-term investment, it's a short-term power move. You're not buying promise. You're buying impact right now, and paying top dollar for it. So if Newcastle go through with this, it sends a clear message. They're not just there to make up the numbers in Europe, they've got real ambition. And honestly, for what Eddie Howe wants, Watkins does tick a lot of boxes. Hard-working, tactically smart, relentless with the press, not afraid to mix it up with defenders, and more than capable of leading the line. He's not just a goal poacher, he's clever, can drop into space, and he's shown he can trouble even the best defenses. Still, that price. Sure, Newcastle have the Champions League money coming in, and the squad budget's looking healthy. But this kind of deal, it doesn't really fit the transfer philosophy we've seen from the club over the last few years. This isn't a cheap gem you flip for double in 2 seasons. It's a bold swing, and if it doesn't work out, the resale's not going to save you. Newcastle now face a serious challenge: strengthen the squad without blowing up the budget or upsetting the balance in the dressing room. Watkins isn't young. He's not one for the long haul, but he is someone who can make a difference straight away. So, the big question is Watkins worth £100 million right now? That's what it all comes down to. How convinced Eddie Howe and the board are that this guy is the final piece of the puzzle. Looks like CASADÓ could be the next player forced out of Barcelona. Not for footballing reasons, but financial ones. At 21, he's barely broken into the squad, yet Barca slapped a €100 million release clause on his head. Now, they'd be happy to let him go for half that. Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester United are all sniffing around, but each for very different reasons. Let's start with Arsenal. On paper, they don't really need him. Their midfield's already stacked. But Arteta's a perfectionist, and he loves players who can tick 3 boxes at once. tactical awareness, positional discipline, and reliability under pressure. CASADÓ fits that mold. He's not flashy, he won't go on mazy runs or ping 40-yard passes. But he'll keep his shape, do the dirty work, and rarely put a foot wrong. Bit boring? Maybe, but incredibly effective. Now Chelsea, honestly, this is the one that makes the most sense. Their midfield is a mess. Romeo Lavia's become more familiar with the treatment table than the pitch. Enzo Fernandez, £120 million and still not convincing. And Enzo Maresca wants to build from the back and dominate possession. For that, you need someone like CASADÓ. He won't cause drama. He'll just do the job. Metronomic, efficient, low maintenance. As for United, well, here's where it gets weird. They've just signed Manuel Ugarte, and now they're already thinking about moving on. That's United for you. Impulsive, chaotic, and allergic to long-term planning. They spent a fortune on Ugarte, and he hasn't even had time to unpack. But because Casemiro's legs have gone, they're desperate for a fix. And now it could be a La Masia kid who fills the gap. Still, here's a thought. Maybe let Ugarte play a few games before replacing him. Now back to Barça, the club once known for vision and values, now stranded between a rock and a La Liga-sized hard place. On one hand, CASADÓ is pure academy talent, homegrown, composed, already showing maturity beyond his age. On the other, the debt's still there, the wage caps suffocating them, and La Liga's refusing to register new signings. Selling CASADÓ for €50 million would buy them breathing room. Keep him, and they'll be back to juggling registration paperwork like it's bingo night at the Camp Nou. According to Court Offside, no formal offers have been made just yet. Classic summer transfer window behavior. All the clubs are interested. None want to be first to blink. Barça have named their price, and now the Premier League trio are seeing if they can knock it down. But here's the thing. CASADÓ isn't going to sell shirts. He's not vying for a Ballon d'Or, but he's the kind of player title-winning teams are built on. Think Rodri at City, not always the standout, but without him the whole engine falls apart. If I were Chelsea, I'd have signed him yesterday. Lord knows they've got the money, but what they don't have is a reliable holding midfielder. Arsenal only makes sense if Arteta wants reinforcement for rotation. And United, well, they're one front page away from signing Messi to patch up their defense. Either way, it's one to watch. Over the next few weeks, Barça will pretend CASADÓ's untouchable. English clubs will act like they're not that fussed. And then, almost inevitably, someone will pay the asking price. And just like that, another La Masia graduate will be headed for the Premier League. Sad? Yeah. Surprising? Not in the slightest. Manchester United aren't exactly sitting on their hands this summer. After showing firm interest in Bryan Mbeumo, things are heating up behind the scenes. Talks with Brentford are well underway, and despite 2 bids already being knocked back, United aren't giving up that easily. Speaking of persistence, about 80% of you lot watch my videos regularly but still refuse to subscribe. So I'm taking a leaf out of United's book. I'm not backing down, and I'm fully expecting you to hit that button sooner rather than later. Come on, don't be a Brentford chairman. Let's strike a deal. Now, according to Fabrizio Romano, United are pushing hard and hoping for a breakthrough by the end of next week. If all goes to plan, we could be seeing Mbeumo at Old Trafford sooner than expected. And he's not just another backup option. He's very much Ruben Amorim's priority target this window. So, what's the big deal with Mbeumo? Only the small matter of 20 goals last season in the Premier League. For a player who spent most of his career at Brentford, that's outrageous. No wonder the Bees have slapped a £63 million price tag on his head, add-ons included. But United, still negotiating, still pushing, still confident. And let's be real, Mbeumo isn't just a stats player. He's dynamic, explosive, quick off the mark, physically sharp, Premier League tested, no language barrier, no adjustment period needed, and crucially, he brings versatility. Stick him out wide, no problem. Through the middle, he'll do a job. That flexibility gives Amorim a lot more to work with tactically. That said, Brentford are standing firm at £65 million, and United are now working behind the scenes to find the right structure to meet their demands without throwing the whole budget down the drain. Is it a lot of money? Absolutely. But let's not forget, they paid more than that for Antony, and what's he really offered lately? In that context, £65 million for someone already delivering in the league, who's proven in his prime and raring to go at a bigger club, starts to look like a very justifiable investment. So even though there are plenty of discussions going on about other United players this summer, Mbeumo is right at the top of the agenda, and if they can get this one over the line in the next few days, it could be a game changer, not just for the season ahead, but for United's top 4 ambitions. He's exactly the kind of player who can hit the ground running. And let's be honest, that's exactly what United have been missing in recent years. So, if they pull this off, it could be a big step in the right direction. Top pace, proper mentality, Premier League proven. Exactly the kind of profile that could help United rise back to where they need to be, competing with Europe's elite, not rebuilding every May.